Okay.
So do I have Lynn call in or?
Is she coming? If that's the case, then yeah, we'll get to that. We'll just do it that way.
I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Does that seem okay, Brad? Are we? Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We're gonna stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee-Esopus and Lenape people. Check out our agendas and minutes and help us add to our list of ways to really support Indigenous communities.
As far as amendments to this evening's agenda, I'm not making any changes to the consent agenda since it's been published on the business agenda. We have added that we're going to hear a presentation from the chair of our Affordable Housing Board, Terry Dolan. And on item number 3, we're going to have a discussion about the easements and pump station agreement regarding the 2 proposed apartment complexes on North Chestnut Street. I also added item number 6 regarding an additional request for carbon reduction funds from the Ulster County Transportation Council. And item number 14, I added settlement agreement and release regarding our CCA program. And that is it as far as additions to this agenda. I move that we accept the consent agenda as amended. All in favor? Aye. As far as announcements, so we don't have legislator Lynn. That's okay. We can circle back.
Would that be better? Yes, she can. I will call her.
Okay, I'm going to make an announcement. I wanted to publicly thank Representative Pat Ryan for providing us with a letter of support regarding our grant application to the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation in support of our grant application to replace water mains throughout the village. And then we've also created a Google form where community members could also show their support and provide any comments or feedback. So that link is here within this agenda, and then we'll circulate that via other methods after this meeting. Any other updates from our trustees?
Should we
I have announcements, but do we want to do Lynn and then announcements?
If Lim is on the phone,
Lynn
let's-
is on the phone. What was it that you said, Lynn, so you can share it with Brad?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
you just hang up.
I just hung up on her.
All right, I'll give some announcements. So
I got it.
yeah,
I got it. It's already
Okay.
ready. Sorry, I hung up by mistake. Start again.
when I go to use the link on the village page, it consistently says that there's another meeting in progress. Just as a thing that you should probably know.
Okay.
we'll handle that for next time. Thanks.
Yeah, it's all good. So were you gonna do an answer first?
We're gonna do you first and then we'll do announcement.
Sorry, what?
You first, love.
Sounds good. Human rights, there will be a public hearing on, hopefully there will be a public hearing on human rights law coming up. And that's on the docket. This, we're setting the public hearing for next month, for July 16th. There's basically, we need to enact the charter revision that the recommendations that we made. There is a proposal on the table to change the makeup of the Human Rights Commission. I will be arguing against that pretty vociferously for a variety of reasons. But enacting the charter revision as it was written is a first step to really making our human rights law the robust action that it should be for our folks. So this is step one of a process that I hope will then give us a meaningful way to address a whole raft of other justice issues more effectively and expeditiously, including housing issues. So much of what comes before the Human Rights Commission is housing related. And so the commissioner oversees both of those. But the more robust the human rights law is, the more we will be able to respond to housing issues. There was one other thing I wanted to make sure that I brought up. It has slipped. Of particular interest to New Paltz is, if you saw the news today, the preferred name change at the county level, which is really exciting. And that feels like a thing that is great for everybody, but has maybe a little bit more impact here in New Paltz than it would in other communities across the county.
Legislator, what is the preferred name change?
It means that the county will, going forward, use people's preferred names. There may be some legal documents where that's not possible, but in any other case, so for email, phone directories, anything that it's not essential for, people will be able to use their preferred name in all dealings with the county as county employees.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you, I think folks were following the public health commissioner debate over whether or not the public health commissioner should be or had to be a medical doctor, hold an MD. And that has, we have now officially said that that is not the case. You do not have to have an MD. And I maintain that, in fact, that's not in our best interest, that our public health commissioner should be someone who knows how to manage public health. So the entirety of the issue is not decided because the person, the executive's office has not come forward with their official recommendation of who that would be yet. But I think we will be in really good hands with somebody who realizes public health. It's kind of like asking General Patton to manage the resupply. That's just not a good use of skills. It's a different set of skills. I'm relieved that I think we're now in a good position to really get the best possible candidate for that role, which is going to be so important to all of us. And those are my big updates.
Thank you. Alice, I think you have announcements?
Yeah, I have some quick ones. You're gonna do Juneteenth, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll go with
Thanks, Lynn, bye.
Narcan and other harm reduction services continue to be available anywhere in Ulster. Thanks to Ellenville Regional's Project Rescue Program, who actually came here to do a big training with the whole New Paltz Pride Coalition 2 weeks ago, which was great. So to access those resources by text, you can send a text saying ERH Rescue to 21000. And then they'll ask you what you need, like Narcan, other harm reduction supplies like test kits, snort kits, sex kits, basically anything that you need. A lot of these materials are also available in locations all throughout the community, including our free food fridge, which I'll talk about next. Free food fridge is available for anyone, anytime, right outside Village Hall, here at 25 Platicville Ave. So donations are always needed, and more volunteers are needed for the summer, since a lot of folks, kind of check out or travel, etc. during the summer. So head over to millionsofbutterflies.org/free-food-fridge for more information on how to volunteer, some tips and tricks for donations. As far as donations go, just make sure it's just food, because it's a food fridge, no clothes or anything, and that you label ingredients. The Never Use Alone hotline updated recently, so make sure you save this contact because it could save a life. 1-877-696-1996. And thanks to the town, Narcan trainings are always available online at opioidpreventionnp.org/Narcan-training. And there's like a video, it walks you through it once you go to that webpage, but there's like a video you watch and then a form that you fill out, and someone will then link with you to get you what you need.
If you have clothing to donate, you can donate it to Family of New Paltz as long as it's for the current type of weather. They will take it. A couple of other things. One is that from the police commission last night, Matt Sutton is our new police commissioner. And the next conversation with the police will be held at Peace Park on June 27th at 5:30 p.m. And then Elting Memorial Library will be closed on Wednesday, June 19th in honor of Juneteenth. And there are going to be a variety of things going on. You can check for a complete description of everything at mwlcenter.org. But a quick rundown is Saturday the 15th is a film screening and discussion of Stamped from the Beginning at Elting Library at 7. Sunday, June 16th is Fulton and Jane Cox service at the New Paltz United Methodist Church from 1 to 2 p.m. Fulton and Jane Cox Day program at the church will be from 4 to 5, also on June 16th. And Monday, June 19th, the Jubilee commemoration ceremony at the New Paltz Rural Cemetery is from 10 to 11. The community drum procession will start at the Ann Oliver House at 5 Broadhead Avenue. And that'll be from 12 to 12:15, and we'll be going over to historic Huguenot Street for lunch, performances, tours, and kids craft from 12:15 to 4 p.m.
Any other announcements from trustees?
I've got two. This just came to me this morning. It looks very interesting from the county. Is the Ulster County Arts and Culture Plan, which is a first ever comprehensive plan to study the arts and culture in our county and to chart a course for a flourishing arts and cultural landscape here. It's launching on June 17th virtually, but I bring it up specifically because on the 24th at BOCES here in New Paltz, there's going to be a big meeting, town forum type of thing at 7 p.m. If you're interested, just point your search engine to Ulster County Arts and Culture Plan. The other announcement I have is regarding, this is big news, the Ulster County 2024 Patrick Julius Tobin Flusser Economic and Social Justice Scholarship is now open to any high school student who's interested in economic and social justice issues. This year, you write a 500-word essay submitted to the judges. I can tell you that the first place is $2,000, second place is $1,000, and $500 for third place, which is a considerable jump from previous years. If you're interested, you can reach out to me, or you can email Flusser Scholarship, and I'll spell FLUSSERS scholarship gmail. So that's a terrific thing. The deadline for submissions is July 24th. And I encourage everyone, if you know someone in the high school in the county, please spread the word. That's any school district in the county and any senior is eligible to apply.
That was Flusser's scholarship. There was an S before the next S.
Yeah, I've got another.
I wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure.
It's one plus or scholarship.
Great. Okay.
Okay, anything else as far as an announcement from trustees? Then I'm gonna open up public comment. Do we have anyone from the public interested in making a comment?
Some signups here. We're going in that order.
June, feel free, come on up and make a comment. Yeah, perfect. Just state your name for Brad. He's brand new to the village, so
Welcome, nice.
he's taking a crash course, figuring out lots of stuff, but I'm super happy to have him on board.
Yeah, it's great. I'm June Bueller. So in the next week or so, by the end of June 2024, we will have a pretty cool anniversary to celebrate in the village. Based on the records of the Haviland Heidegger Historical Collection at Elting Library, it seems that bluestone flag sidewalks on several streets in the village were installed between April 28th and June 30th, 1899, making them exactly 125 years old. Amazingly, a long stretch of this original bluestone, from number 11 until number 19 Prospect Street, is still in such good condition that it is still almost entirely ADA compliant. And I frequently see parents with baby strollers choose to walk on the bluestone side of Prospect, even though there is a new concrete sidewalk just on the other side of the street. Unfortunately, because of the condition of the sidewalks further north on Prospect, which is bad, the village board has recently accepted a bid to replace them all with asphaltic concrete, asphalt, which would include demolishing the entire stretch of historic bluestone, even where it is still beautifully intact after all this time. I found out yesterday the demolition is slated to begin in less than 2 weeks, destroying part of New Paltz's heritage exactly on its 125th anniversary. I want to speak about how wrong I think it is for the village to demolish a stretch of bluestone sidewalk that may very well be the longest surviving, longest stretch of original bluestone sidewalk in New Paltz outside of Huguenot Street. I say maybe because the village-wide survey being undertaken by the Design Review Board and Historic Preservation Commission, the DRBHPC, to inventory all of New Paltz's remaining bluestone sidewalks is still ongoing and hasn't reached any conclusions yet. This is according to Chair Thomas Olson, who for this reason recently in an email on April 28th to Mayor Rogers and other interested parties, urged a slow approach to deciding what to do about Prospect Street, and for that matter, any other streets with remaining bluestone sidewalks. Adding that he believes the DRBHPC's report, when completed, should offer some wider context that could guide the village board's decision. Unfortunately, this seems to have been ignored, as was a letter protesting the plan signed so far by 40 village residents, including myself. One of the complaints outlined in our letter was that there was absolutely no public outreach or notification to the neighborhood about the plan or about the material to be used before the bid was accepted. A vague post on Facebook used a photograph of cracked bluestone pavers from a different street and didn't mention the material to be used in the replacement. And in any case, not everyone is on Facebook. In fact, the plan, which uses the exact same specs to what New York State has installed on the SUNY New Paltz campus, was really only shared with the New York State DOT. Furthermore, what Mayor Rogers cites as a beautiful residential stretch of asphaltic concrete sidewalk on Plattekill Avenue running alongside the campus does look nice from a short distance, but is already cracking. Just in the stretch from the Rainbow Crosswalk up to South Oakwood on Plattekill, I recently counted half a dozen thin cracks already formed that run the whole width of the asphaltic concrete pathway. I have 4 points as well as an offer that I hope the village board will accept. 1, further history. For those interested, the New Paltz Historical Society's guest speaker on June 24th at the library is Peter Roberts, who will be giving an illustrated talk about the history of the bluestone industry in Ulster County with an emphasis on our local area. Yeah. Two, in 125 years, there has been minimal maintenance or replacement done of the aforementioned stretch of bluestone pavers at likely close to zero cost to the village in all that time. With care, these 360 million-year-old slate slabs could easily last another 125 years or more. Three, besides its historical value and its durability, bluestone is attractive, lovely to walk on for people and pets, and non-polluting. Four, none of the community members I've spoken with were aware of either the imminent vote to accept the sidewalk plan or the use of asphaltic concrete as the material to be used, or both. Members don't have a chance to fight for the preservation of New Paltz's history. Who does and who will? Five, my offer. I'd like to offer to reset or replace myself any of the bluestone pavers from 11 Prospect Street up until 19 Prospect Street that our building inspector deems to be non-ADA compliant. Other property owners in New Paltz have repaired their own sidewalks at their own expense, and I suspect that none of them would be pleased to have the village insist on paving over them as part of a block-long plan under the guise of unifying the look of their street. But I would like assurances that if I undertake to repair the bluestone from 11 up until 19 Prospect, they will not subsequently get paved over. It would be an honor to contribute in this way to our beautiful historic village. If the mayor and village board will only work with me to preserve what I and many others think is eminently worth saving. Thank you.
I'm pulling up a picture of the bluestone that you're referencing, because I don't understand how you could possibly salvage it.
And a change work order would cost $100,000. Whoever's next.
So do we continue whoever wants to?
Yeah, if you would like to speak about anything at all, you're more than welcome to.
Just make sure Brad catches.
Yeah, as long as Brad can get your name.
Can I say it from here?
Definitely.
You don't have to-
And Professor, congratulations on being named a distinguished professor. I saw the news.
My name is Eugene Heath. I live at 19 Grove Street. And I want to thank June for her brave remarks. I am aware of some of the questions concerning the process, and I don't want to be redundant here. I'm speaking as much to you all as to the commission. We are all citizens here of the village of New Paltz. But there are four themes that I think are important in this question of bluestone versus asphalt. Think how horrible that is, bluestone versus asphalt. First, there's history. This is a village with a past. And bluestone, as you can see in historic Kingston, as you can see in Stone Ridge, as you can see in other communities, is a constant, ever-present reminder of our past and history. And I think the first question that I have for this board is, if we're a village that is going to have an historic preservation commission, was the Historic Preservation Commission consulted or informed of this decision? You can wait till my remarks, but I want to know if the Historic Preservation Commission has been consulted or informed about this decision, because otherwise why have an Historic Preservation Commission?
Well, you could read the law and understand what their mandate is. Their mandate is not, they are not responsible for determining the materials of sidewalk.
That they're not responsible for determining the materials of the sidewalk does not get at the question of whether they have some responsibility for making some contextual remarks or advice on what counts as or contribute to.
That's not what they are legally required to do. It is not what the role or focus is of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Well, what they are legally required to do they're going through with a study right now. Is that illegal?
No.
So
they
that's legal.
absolutely can make
So they can do that.
recommendations.
Well, all I'm saying
Right.
is, if you're going to make a determination about an aspect of the village that contributes to its historic.
Professor, have you ever walked our community
Yes.
with a person in a wheelchair?
No, not with the person in a
Okay.
wheelchair.
I encourage you
Okay.
to do that.
Okay.
And I encourage you to ask them what it is like to navigate a bluestone site.
That's a fair question. That is a fair question. And that gets to another theme of mine, walkability. If you go to Grove Street, you go to Main Street, to the east side of Grove Street that connects to Main Street, there you will find about 10 plus, what do you want to call them? Bluestone pavers. Each one is smooth. The division between them is approximately an inch. At the end of those bluestone pavers, what do you find? An asphalt sidewalk. Take the person in the wheelchair there. And
Sir,
let me
sir,
finish.
sir,
Let me finish.
sir.
Let me finish.
This is the same problem that we had with June's letter,
What was
is that there is not going to be any paving over any existing materials. You create an entirely new base.
Right, so you dig them up.
Sir,
Whoa.
I'm, I mean,
Let's go back to the compliment at the beginning.
I mean, do you honestly want to have a real conversation about this and what we do on a daily basis, or do you just want to play games of gotcha here?
Oh, no.
Because I can
Wait,
play
wait.
games of gotcha
No.
too.
Oh, listen. Wait a minute. You have a period here for comments. I am
Okay,
giving
then
my
I'll
comments.
just be quiet.
I-
because
well-
you're not interested in what we do or why we do it or how seriously we take our responsibilities.
Mayor Rogers, excuse me. This is a period of time for comments.
And
Can I make a comment?
Please finish.
Thank you. So I'm making comments. I'm not here to engage you in a conversation. We can do that at some point. All right, but I'm here to make a comment.
well, you also asked questions, so it seemed to me like you were looking for responses. You were looking for a dialogue. So I will change my expectations because now you're not looking for feedback or responses.
Well,
You're just going to play your rhetorical game of gotcha.
no, I'm not playing rhetorical game. Gotcha. What I said was I wanted to know if the Historical Preservation Commission had been contacted, and I said you could respond to that after the end of my remarks. I don't think that's inappropriate. So one point I wanted to make was about history. The other point I want to make is a reiteration of Gene's point about longevity. Because you get what you pay for. And a lot of these bluestone sidewalks are smooth, they're straight, and they have clear segments. What you have with a lot of asphalt sidewalks, and if we go back to the walkability question, and we go back to the east side of Grove Street from Main Street, you have a set of bluestone pavers that are walkable. It is the asphalt that is not, because it undulates with roots, it undulates with the heaving in the winter. And you can see that undulation as well if you go up to Oakwood and the asphalt paving by the Episcopal Church. Now, I don't know what it's like to push someone in a wheelchair through this town. I do know what it's like to walk. I walk in the morning, almost every morning, and I almost studiously avoid the asphalt sidewalks, especially in the winter, because they undulate, because they are not even, because they have cracks. And a lot of the bluestone doesn't have that. I would like to add something else to the question of an historical village, to the point of the longevity of the bluestone, to the point of the walkability of maintained bluestone. What I want to add is something about beauty. We live in a village, pardon me, that sometimes looks a little tired. Let's not contribute any more to the ugliness. An asphalt sidewalk that is a ribbon of asphalt parallel to the road is not, I must be taking up too much of your time, is not particularly beautiful. Let's not add to the ugliness. Thank you very much. Thank you to those who were listening very carefully. I appreciate it.
Hi, good evening. My name is Reva Wolf. I also live at 19 Grove Street, and I also am, Reva, R-E-V-A, Wolf, W-O-L-F. And I also am very concerned about the decision in exchanging bluestone for asphalt, how that decision was made, the lack of consultation, and the quality of the material itself. And it's hard for me to understand why someone would replace a material that has endured 125 years and in many places it's still in perfect condition, for something that is not as sustainable on every possible level as is natural bluestone. So there is also a sustainability issue in addition to the fact of the beauty, which adds to the value of our village and to how people perceive it, how we perceive it. And here you have a beautiful flag behind you, Village of New Paltz, founded 1678. The numbers 1678 are very large there to emphasize the historical nature of this village. And the bluestone is part of that history. I'm an art historian, and history matters a lot to me in terms of our understanding of our place and its value and what it means. I also want to add that and just emphasize a point Eugene made, because on Grove Street, at the other end of Grove Street, across the street from where we live, there is asphalt, and it is horrible. I don't know how long it's been there. It has sunk. It is in all kinds of weird configurations, and I often go on the street there, especially in bad weather. I do not walk on that asphalt. So it's hard for me to understand why asphalt was chosen as a replacement. I understand there's a financial concern, but I also think we could take time. We could look at various ways of raising money to have proper sidewalks, or to work with the people who live in front of those sidewalks, as you did, I know, for example, with the head of the Preservation Commission, Tom Olson, who told me he replaced his sidewalk with concrete. He paid for the concrete, and then the village worked with him because he did not want asphalt there. And anyhow, I'm a little befuddled how this all came about. I understand, believe me, that, the issue of wheelchairs and people getting around, I appreciate that. It's not that I want to argue about that. I also know that in front of my house, the bluestone is pretty smooth. And I think that a wheelchair would do fine there. And I think in front of June's house too, it's in pretty good shape.
It is not.
Well, in any case, I do know that the asphalt I do believe it is a poor solution. It is a temporary fix. It looks hideous. It is made of unsustainable material. And I would like to argue strongly for you to reconsider. Can we just put this on hold, table it, slow down, let the Preservation Commission do its research? Yes, you're not legally bound to, maybe you're not legally required to consult with them, but that doesn't mean it's not a good idea. What is legally bound to, let me finish. What you're legally bound to and what is the right thing to do is not necessarily the right thing in a community where we all need to work together. And so I just like to ask to please consider slowing down this process, looking at broadly at what people think and what our options are and how we could raise money to make sidewalks that are both beautiful and good for everybody. Thank you.
Since my house was referenced, can I just say, Tim? ADA compliance means that ADA compliance means that there should be no more than a 1/4 inch change in level. And our sidewalk is that way. If you come and walk on it, I'm serious when I say that I see.
I wish I could find the picture. Your sidewalk is in crumbles.
No, it's not.
It absolutely is.
Parents with strollers.
I received phone calls from Jerry Benjamin on a regular basis to
I'm
replace
talking
the
about this.
sidewalks.
You can do this. I can't.
That's Jerry's.
That's Jerry's.
Does
That's
it
Jerry's.
come through Spanish?
So that's why I was very specific with the addresses that I'm willing to, anything that is not ADA compliant, you know, the 5 or 6 pavers out of that whole stretch from 11, which is Polish and Nash, up till Jared's, because Jared's are crumbled. They are. Too many trucks have driven over them. But the rest of it, there are very few that are any more than a quarter of an inch. And I will replace those myself, please.
Okay.
Please
It will
agree to
cost
work with me.
$100,000
So
to
you're
do the
proposing
change
that
order.
we have
Literally.
multiple different types of sidewalks. So you know what has happened historically? So also this community the village was incorporated in 1887 because we had water mains here. The town was established in 1678, not the village, right? And so what has happened here historically is that we have not had anyone doing any work on replacing sidewalks, right? So what we've had since 2008 is that we were supposed to replace sidewalks. It has never happened. So we are proactively actually trying to do stuff. We had an agreement with historic Huguenot Street, for the sidewalks from the monument south should have been replaced already per an agreement that has just been ignored
Okay, on the next.
for nearly
yeah,
20 years.
Where Tom Olson paid for his own concrete. And there's 3 or 4 different materials on the sidewalks there. When you're starting with Prospect Street for various reasons. When you get up to the next street, are you going to pave over his concrete that he paid for himself, just so that it becomes all the same material?
There's no plan to do Grove Street.
Why not? It's in worse shape than Prospect. So all I'm asking, please.
It's $100,000 to do a change order, so it's not just
I-
you paying for that. You have to help pay for $100,000.
There are plenty of big construction projects where you make adjustments in the order, so. Okay, I just can't even imagine that it would cost more than doing, you first quoted something like 70,000 to redo the whole thing. I'm saying I'll pay any paver on the west side of the street that isn't ADA compliant. I will pay for that. I will take care of that. The building inspector can come and point out which ones are not ADA compliant. Already though, I meant it. That's why I put it in my remarks. I see parents with strollers, wheels, choose to walk on the slate side of the street, the bluestone side of the street, because it is more enjoyable than the concrete. Children like to run on the bluestone side of the street, because if they fall, that stone is beautiful and smooth, not too hot in the summer. They won't even skin their knees if they fall. It's like they would a nice concrete sidewalk on the other side of the street, which, by the way, if you have a wheelchair and you can't handle the 1/4 inch, I mean, I know a wheelchair could get along the stretch of bluestone on Brossard that I'm talking about. But if you felt like they needed an absolutely smooth surface, there's one right across the street.
Okay, we heard you. Thank you, June.
Know
Does anybody
how to
else
reach
want to
me.
speak?
You know how to reach me, please. I would love to work with you on this so that we can save this bluestone for New Paltz.
Any other public comments?
Do this before. I'm Sarah Cunningham. I'm a student at New Paltz High School. Sarah Cunningham with an H. I'm a student at New Paltz High School. I hadn't heard of this before. I just came to this because of school. But I am concerned by this because I think that the bluestone is very important to New Paltz's character. And it has lasted for 125 years, which asphalt has barely lasted 10 years. It's just a much more sustainable option. And you said a very high number, like $100,000
For the change, yeah.
To
To change the project on Prospect Street would cost $100,000 just to make the change, plus keeping it in. because you have to pay for new, I can't think of the word, sorry, lifeline. My brain doesn't always recall words sometimes. I don't know, the engineering reports and all of that. It's all, like, all of the consultants, all of those things have to be redone because of the way things are funded and the hoops you have to jump through. That's what we were told by our project manager, who has been doing all of the things that just left, but that's the number that was explained to us. And also the bluestone, to put it in and to maintain it costs twice as much.
Okay, well, I think that, to put it in and to maintain it seems a better financial option for the long-term future because it has lasted so long and it will last a lot longer than the asphalt. It'll be more environmentally sustainable, and I would love to come back to New Paltz after college and in my future, and maybe even continue to live here in the future and to still have a piece of historic New Paltz that is environmentally sustainable.
Totally understand. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
I still like your documents. Hi, I am Colleen Ruska, and this is my daughter Bethany Moultrie. Got it? Okay. Good evening. A few months ago, a resolution was passed to change the percentage of affordable housing units in a qualifying development from 10 to 15%. This is such a positive step forward and will help many individuals and families in our community. As a member of our community, as well as an advocate for the unhoused and underserved, I would like to know the date when the resolution will be implemented. There have been a few big developments approved at 10%, even after the 15% was voted on and passed. Since you have approved some developments in the months since, I ask on behalf of the unhoused and underserved that anything approved after that date that it was passed be retroactively approved at 15% instead of the 10%. And those be set aside for affordable housing. I will also ask that anything pending approval be paused until the implementation of the new affordable housing inclusion at 15% is fully in effect and on the books. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Any other public comment? So then let's move into our public hearing. Mark, I'm gonna ask you to the table, and I move that we open our public hearing regarding our CFA application
Second.
for the community development block grant regarding another sewer conveyance update.
Thank you, Jim. Does anybody need a copy of the handouts I was giving out earlier related to the public hearing admin grant or description project? Okay, one housekeeping item, we are asked by the state when we submit this application to include an attendance sheet. If anybody hasn't had a chance to sign this, I'm gonna pass it around. There's no obligation to sign it. I just ask that you pass it around and give everybody a chance to sign in. We show with the application who is in attendance in the audience. As Tim noted, I'm Mark Lauer. I'm a grant writer by profession. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a planner. I've been a grant writer since 1978. I've been working on this particular program since the spring of 1978. It's now 46 consecutive years I've applied to this particular program. And I've been working for the village since 2010. The ad is long-winded, but the gist of it is this. Each year, the U.S. Department of HUD gives money to the various states that they can distribute as grants to towns and villages and counties. We are non-entitlement Larger cities like New York, Buffalo, Albany, they are HUD entitlement communities. They get millions of dollars each year for a community development block grant program. That's a mouthful. I guess I call it CDBG from this point. They get a CDBG grant just by existing each year. They can use on a variety of things. It could be housing related, it could be public facilities, it could be various public infrastructures, community centers, senior centers, social services. All they have to do is show HUD, let's say Albany, that they spent the money correctly and they get it each year. We get to compete each year for a piece of a grant that's given to the state. Roughly $50 million per year is given to the state by HUD. They distribute that. We have an opportunity to apply for part of that. We've been applying for the set aside for public infrastructure. And I've been working on such applications since 2010. We've won most years, but sometimes we lose. It's a very competitive program. The primary consideration with HUD is that whatever we do must primarily benefit people of low and moderate income. The village as a whole, according to the 2020 census, is 58% low and moderate income. That means anything we do with village-wide benefit will qualify as primarily benefiting people of low and moderate income. Now, other communities in our county don't have that advantage. Most of the towns are below 51% low and moderate income according to the census. So they end up having to do income surveys on very small neighborhoods trying to qualify them. We don't have to do that. So anything we propose that has village-wide benefit is eligible, but then the next step is competitive. So what we're trying to do is match one of our needs to the preferences of the state. The state tends, with public infrastructure, to favor communities with serious health and safety needs. The village has been burdened by a consent order since 2003 related to its sanitary sewer system. Back about 2003, the village was sued by riverkeepers because of chronic problems we were having and still continue to have with our old sanitary sewer system. Old sanitary sewer systems tend to be leaky. Not leaking out, but leaking in. They tend to pull in water from the ground. If there's a crack in the pipe, that's infiltration. If you have a manhole, sewer manhole that's inundated with water, that's inflow. And it's exacerbated if you have manholes that are made out of bricks instead of cast concrete. So that we've been dealing with the problem of having the sewer lines at certain locations erupt with raw sewage during heavy rain events or long periods of sustained rain, where you have water flowing on the roads or in yards, or the groundwater rises due to a wet spring or any wet period. And that means that the village ends up treating rainwater at the treatment plant, and at times you can overload the system. And overloading the system is bad in the sense that you are no longer within your permit requirements with DEC. And in the worst case, you could be polluting a stream or polluting a river. And that every now and again that happens in communities that don't control the infiltration inflow. The village has been making strident efforts since 2010 to get this under control, to the extent we can, using grants and not loans. We've been trying to carve up this need into neat packages of $1 million or thereabouts per year that we can apply for. And then you make those improvements, and then you go back and try to make more. So you might be noticing that we're doing construction with a firm called Amity in various locations in the village. That's a 2001 project and a 2002 project. 2001 just about done, 2002 winding up in the spring. Another project, a 2003 project, is being undertaken by Osterhout of Elmdale. And a 2020 project was completed about a year and a half ago with TAM Enterprises. So we've been successful the last 4 consecutive years. I don't believe any other village in the state has won this program the last 4 consecutive years. It is a very competitive program. What helps us is our consent order. And I commonly tell the village board year and year again, the consent order is winning for you because you have a serious need that's not yet resolved. And I believe the DEC is not going to lift the consent order until they're really, really satisfied that we're not going to have any more sewage erupting from manholes. What they don't want to do is have to explain to river keepers why they lifted the consent order and the problem's not entirely gone. So we are incrementally working at this so that we don't really know the results yet because the 2001 project's not complete, the 2002 project's not complete, the 2003 project's not started yet. We had a pre-construction meeting last month with Osterhout. And based upon input from our Public Works Department, Blue, we are applying, hopefully again this year in July, for another increment of these improvements. And the handout I passed around talked about the areas that we are looking at for that are going into an engineering report that I'd be using for the application due July 31. Namely, private property between Church Street and Route 32 North. There's a sewer main there on private property. Works Avenue, North Front Street between Main Street and North Chestnut Street. Church Street between North Front Street and Broadhead Avenue. Those are the locations that we are trying to focus on with the next increment of grant request. One important change this year is they've increased the grant ceiling to 1.5 million. It had been 600,000, then it was 750, then it was $1 million. Now it's 1.5 million.
Mark, does that impact our grant match requirement or suggested match?
Really, what we do each time is that the only area that you commit to locally are my fees, so that we can hit the ground running when we are approved. We do run the engineering inspection fees through the grant. That's why we did the RFQ, where the village board will be looking at the responses it received and pre-approving the engineering contract in anticipation of a grant we hope to get approved in November. So that if we are approved in November, we immediately hire the firm that was, on the basis of the advertising we did the last month, we would have our procurement out of the way. One important consideration is that the state is really, really serious about being under construction within 6 months of the award. So this last year, we were awarded November 8th. And we were expected to have the bidding, the award, contract signing, the pre-construction meeting, and the first invoice from the contractor within 6 months. We pulled that off. Our first invoice was May 8th, 6 months to the day after we got approved. So that we have an advantage in that the state knows that what we say we're going to do, we do.
And I met with Homes and Community Renewal yesterday, and their staff explained just that. In addition to our consent order, that we have been successful securing grants more than probably any other community of our size across the state because of our ability to administer grants, our ability to get projects done and complete and actually address the things that we have to address because of the consent order.
So there are many things we can apply for. You can apply for water mains, sewer mains, streetlights, sidewalks. You can apply for lots of things, but my job is to tell you what's competitive. And I believe in the old maxim, experience is the teacher of all things. And my experience is that the winning play is going in again with something that addresses the consent order. Now, we're doing simultaneously an application for water main replacement. That's due Friday from a different program. And I commonly tell the village, your best play with CDBG is sewer. The consent order is your friend. Perversely, is your friend. And with water, we don't have a consent order. So that we go for a program that offers 60% funding. So if we go with the maximum, it's gonna look something like this, maybe 1.5 million, the absolute maximum for a grant for engineering, inspection, construction, and perhaps $60,000-$70,000 local contribution for administration. And we basically don't have that cost, that local cost, unless we get approved in November. So in short, if anybody has any questions about this handout, we're working on the engineer report. We don't have it. We're going as fast as we can. We're trying to meet our requirements for the public comment. We advertise in the newspaper. We published the notice in the village on the website. We posted notices throughout the village. We took photographs. You're having a hearing tonight. The ad makes it very clear that you can comment in writing to the mayor in the next 10 days if you so wish. If you have something you want to tell us about this, you can suggest other projects. The village board decides what to apply for. I'm merely recommending what's worked for me in the past, which is addressing the consent order with more sewer main replacements. And that's it. That's the overview. But we're certainly encouraging anybody who wants to ask questions or has comments to please do so now to make everybody's task easier, like Brad, identify who you are. And if that sign-in sheet's still bouncing around, I'll take it and make that list available to the clerk's office. Thank you.
I think it's on the podium.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thanks for your really great explanation of all of
Yeah.
this, as usual, Mark.
So great.
Right, so while the public hearing is open, does anyone from the public want to make a comment or have a question about on up, Terry?
Hi, my name is Terry Nolan. I live at 58 South Manhattan Boulevard. As a consultant, I worked with this particular federal program for many, many years. And one of the hallmarks of it is this public hearing. Most federal programs, you don't get to come before your elected body and talk about what you think about it. Much of this is grounded in the fact when Gerald Ford signed this legislation, he said something to the effect that this federal law moved power from the banks of the Potomac to communities like ours.
1974.
So that's right, it was. So I support wholeheartedly the application the consultant has proposed. I hope the village goes along with his recommendation. And the last thing I'll say is, this is a federal program. It has to be reauthorized, not reauthorized, it has to be reappropriated every year by Congress. And it doesn't hurt at all to let your local, your state and federal representatives know that this is important to you.
Yeah.
Because it's all federal programs, even though this one's 50 years old, there's not many of those around, domestic program like this. This is a good one to keep it going. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks. Any other public comment about something that's related to your public health, sewer? Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So I move that we close this public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I would just like to add that the sewer work on Prospect Street, we had a deluge of rain that came down. We must have got about half an inch of rain in 20 minutes. And typically the sewer main cover down was Henry W. Prospect and Henry W. that overflows, and I didn't see anything happen with that.
Oh,
which is no, it's that. I mean, I was like, I gotta just check out this thing because it flows, and sure enough, nothing. And that's
That's good news.
and
That's
that's what we're
That's one of the 5 maintenance hole covers in the system that was cited by the DEC.
right. So that's good news. So,
That's really nice. Thank you, Bear.
just-
No, but thank you for letting us know. Yeah, that's, you need to.
I used to take pictures of it. So
Well, we're incrementally having an impact.
what's that?
Incrementally, each project.
Yeah, absolutely.
On, so.
That's my point. Exactly.
Thanks again.
Well, thank you.
We're grateful to have you.
And I know that the village board will be looking at the responses for engineering. And even, I don't know how many responses you got, but it's, even if you only have one, you still need to score them. They sound a little silly, but they actually look for the scoring sheets eventually after we get approved.
Yeah, and we got those.
Otherwise, I'm gonna start, you're gonna get deluge mayor with the usual series of forms to be signed. And expect that later in June, as soon as I get the engineering report. There'll be lots, about a good dozen or more forms for you to sign for the application. Certifications of this, that, and everything else.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Everything.
And you don't need anything further for the WIA grant that's due on Friday?
I just need John to finish the engineering report tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Then, when I'm heading down to Atlantic City to work, hopefully I get some internet connection and get it submitted. I don't want to wait till the last day.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then Terry, you want to join us at the table and provide us with the 2004 draft housing board report?
Good evening. Thank you for having us on behalf of the Affordable Housing Board.
Thank you so much for your.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very briefly, the status of the affordable housing program here in the village is as follows. We have 7 affordable units and they're all occupied. We have a waiting list of over 100 families. We have 15 additional units that have been approved through the planning board. And we have approximately 30 more additional units that are in the planning process. All of this is good news, and on behalf of the Housing Board, none of this would have been possible without your dedication to development of affordable housing in the village. However, it's my understanding the proposal to increase the percentage of affordable units for projects greater than 20 units has not been enacted. If we can help move this forward in any way, please let us know. Finally, in my opinion, the lack of affordable housing in the village cannot be solved by building our way out of it. The unconscionable rent increases of the past few years, double, close to triple in some cases, of the rate of inflation, are only possible because demand is outstripping supply, and in my opinion, it will do so for the foreseeable future. These rent increases have little to do with the rising cost of doing business, when they far exceed the rate of inflation. Federal, state, and county-wide tax policy must be brought to bear to address this issue. Additional tax credits, fair property taxation of affordable units, and progressive property taxation of market rate units. Finally, a process to regulate rent increases, similar to the New York State Public Service Commission, the New York State Financial Services Corporation, to provide guide rails to assure rent increases reflect economic reality and not just leave it to Adam Smith's invisible hand when the thumb of that hand is on the scale. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. If there's any questions, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh, because I would like to have a look at that.
Sure.
We have the report.
You have it?
Yeah, it's linked in the agenda.
I thought that he was reading something separate.
Well, I didn't read the report to you, but basically
Yeah.
it just summarizes basically what the report is.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And then we'll publish it, so it's available.
It'll website, yeah. Thanks for getting back into the swing of those reports, because in the realm of, landlord regulations and just housing smart community stuff, like it's something I point to all the time, it really helps to just have like the snapshot. So thank you for like spearheading to make sure we have this. It really does help in more ways than I think I've expressed.
So it says everything, including like what you said specifically about how the rent reflects economic reality, because I didn't.
No,
That's what I was
the
looking
report,
for. I didn't see.
basically the written report mirrors I think the ordinance where
Yeah.
we're to report to you about the number of units, the number of vacancies, the size of the waiting list.
Right, no, it was actually.
The editorial
other stuff.
comments were my
That's-
own.
That's what I want. Editorial comments.
Okay.
If you could share those with me, I would really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, what was the state of that, our updates to the law? Because like I thought we passed it.
Yes, I don't know.
I may be
Because,
wrong. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
yeah, I
I'll have to
thought,
take a look.
like, I
can
really
check
thought
with-
we had passed
I
it.
can check with the
It was, like,
clerk's office to see whether it was,
enacted
published.
immediately type thing.
but I think that does sound familiar.
Because the
But Al,
changes that I wanted to make,
you wanted to
were
pull those
totally-
out. and do
they
this
weren't
separate.
part of that law. so it
Originally,
would've
you
been
were,
separate.
originally you were suggesting,
Yeah.
let's do it all together.
And then we decided.
And then you suggested, no, I'm gonna.
Because
give
we
that-
would have had to start
Yeah, we're
over.
just taking too much time.
Yeah.
So I believe we may have passed it.
I
We
thought we
can
did.
double check and to see whether it's published. I know that, I don't believe that there's any language that allows the law to address any projects retroactively.
Right,
I also think that would be very challenging.
Yes,
We'd probably
in
get
court.
sued,
yeah.
because all sorts of like pro formas created by businesses were based on a different law.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Again, if I misspoke, I apologize.
No,
But, you know, there are 30 units in the pipeline,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hopefully they can, you know, fall under the new ordinance.
So like
Yes, yeah.
the New Paltz Apartments.
That would be
project
one.
You're talking about.
That would be
What-
one. There's another one. I don't know the name of it, but it's north of the Agway project.
Yes, yeah,
That's another one.
that's another one.
Well, those would be the only two, because the other one's the small one. That's on the location of the auto repair shop, kitty corner from the Stewart's shop.
Mhm.
The Mulberry.
That's small.
Assertive.
Yeah, right at the end of Mulberry
But that's
Street.
already been
That's
approved.
small. It was approved years ago. You're, yeah, it won't count. But thank you again.
So Brad, let's
Yeah,
just triple
thank
check
you.
to see whether that change to the affordable housing law was sent to the Department of State for their review.
Thank
Okay,
you for.
thanks, Mary. Okay, so the next item is related to the possibility of consolidating the town and the village. So we have a draft IMA. I'm going to move that we approve the IMA as a village and then share that with the town and ask them to approve it. And then, okay. And then I just wanted to add that we also have a contract that's been finalized, and I am suggesting that we sign the contract upon agreement that the town is signing this IMA.
Was that another second?
That's my that's my
All encompassing.
Oh,
So
all
a second.
encompassing single
Terrific.
motion.
Great.
All in favor?
Someone seconded it, all in favor.
Aye.
Any questions about that process or why we're doing it that way? Okay, and then the next item is related to two projects on North Chestnut, 137, 145. This is has to do with the developers agreement, and our attorney and our engineer, myself, and the our new director of planning, zoning, and code enforcement reviewed the most recent changes. The most part, it seemed fairly straightforward and perfunctory. We responded to the developer's attorney with what we wanted to see, and I'm gonna enter into these agreements pending final review that we can do outside of the village board table with the village board's green light of the easements broadly.
I'll second that.
Any questions? In favor?
Aye.
And then for the project that we've been talking about for some time, putting the solar array on the new fire station. Brad's been focusing on this. These are two tasks that I gave him, and he's been leading the charge, trying to understand the opportunity to apply to the county to use some of their ARPA money for this solar array project. as well as applying to NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities Program. And then we've received some assistance from Eleanor Peck from Hudson Valley Regional Council. And that's been helpful in terms of navigating that NYSERDA program and making sure that we potentially secure as much money as possible to put towards this program. So those are two separate grant programs that I'm suggesting that we go ahead and apply to both of them. So I'm looking this evening for a green light from our village board that we're in agreement that we would apply for both of those programs, and we can bake that into each of the grant applications.
Very green, very green.
You're green lighting the green programs. And I would also look for approval from the board that we that you authorize the publication of an RFP for this project and circulate that. I believe what provided to us recently was something that we could share with solar installers and get their responses back. We should probably include some language about having the net cost be reflective of whatever their grants we do or do not get. And then the offset could also be paid for by financing provided by a power purchase agreement. So.
And are we going with trying to do it on the police station as well, or do we have to wait because they have to fix their roof first?
So I'm having a conversation with the folks at the town. I don't know that we would bake it into one program or project. That would probably be overly complicated, but I think there's a lot of benefit to making sure that whatever we're doing, we're sharing resources and ideas, they're doing the same. And then even at Town Gown this morning, we were talking with Chief Goodnow from Rescue because they're interested in doing something. So just, you know, that
I was just thinking of the things that I read.
Yeah, I had proposed that the town could consider also applying for funding that would go towards this fire station, which would benefit townwide taxpayers. And maybe that, you know, that's something we can discuss further, but I don't know exactly where they are because I was unaware of their plans to do an array on the police station. But I think the most important thing is that we're all on the same page, we're all meeting, we're all comparing notes. And, you know, there may be an opportunity at some point in the future to issue our own individual RFPs, but then for installers to say, oh, well, this is an interesting project and I'm going to bid accordingly because there may be advantages to mobilize.
I think
more than one project.
I think maybe I wasn't clear. It was talking about how the billing could be aggregated. Remember what Ted was saying about that?
Right.
So that was what I was thinking.
Yes. So we'll see if there are opportunities to do that. And I feel like the only way we can figure that out is by you know.
So do you need a second for all that?
I guess we need a second on authorizing the advertisement of the previously circulated RFP with the suggested changes that Tim mentioned. So that's my second.
Okay, all in favor? And then the next item is the federal sidewalk project. So at our meeting on May 22nd, we agreed to officially express interest in securing carbon reduction funds from the Ulster County Transportation Council. And that was received by the planning department up at Ulster County. And I just want to jump ahead for 1 second about there's another opportunity in a conversation that I had with the planning department. They're very aware of the other 3 pedestrian safety improvements that we've been talking about and our bike ped committee has been talking about, and a petition has been circulated within the community. And the planning department said that we could take those improvements and then also submit them to the Ulster County Transportation Council and ask for carbon reduction funds to go towards the construction or implementation of those 3 projects. And, you know, it's largely crosswalks on Main Street, making improvements so that the intersection at Main and Oakwood is safer for pedestrians, and then making improvements at the intersection of South Side and South Chestnut / New York State Route 32 or Route 208. So that was our three asks, and so I just included some language that I was going to share once we got approval from our board this evening. But I think it's also important to note that we're prioritizing the sidewalk project as far as an ask of carbon reduction funds, and then our second request is if there's additional carbon reduction fund available, we would use it for these three pedestrian safety improvements. So I'm seeking approval from the board to go ahead and send that expression of interest for the three pedestrian safety improvements.
Absolutely, second.
All in favor? Aye. And then going back just where I had 5B, I just wanted to throw out this idea of like, we could also begin work on making the bid docs for that sidewalk project, for our federal sidewalk project, ready to go. That's a trickier one. I mean, I feel somewhat optimistic that the carbon reduction funds from the UCTC may be available, but should we wait to get that money before we spend more money preparing bid docs? Okay, because that meeting is also like later in June, so we should at least have a sense of whether it's a possibility that we'd be able to get some of the additional money that would be needed to realize those sidewalk projects, which includes the north end of Prospect, Church Street on two sides of Henry W, and then the Bluestone that was supposed to be done by December 31st of 2008 that we're finally trying to address. Because all the other efforts to raise money and do it differently didn't work. Getting any sidewalk project across the finish line is probably a Herculean task.
Yeah, so I think wait on a little bit more info.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next item is a resolution for bills and claims. And then we did get a couple of emails today from Nancy and Roseanne with some requests to make sure that we were approving them. So I just wanted to make sure, and they were all kind of just perfunctory things that you know we generally approve on a regular basis at these meetings. So I just wanted to make sure that any of the emails that we received from Nancy or Roseanne today in terms of requests for payables to be included on this agenda are baked into this evening's agenda. Someone want to second my resolution for bills and claims as well as that? All in favor? Aye. And then Stana, you were going to talk about the Juneteenth resolution.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read it and you guys can see what you think. Whereas Juneteenth, short for June 19th, is a holiday commemorating that day in 1865, which marked the effective end of slavery in the United States in Galveston, Texas. And whereas on that day, one of General Granger's first orders was Order Number 3, which was read aloud to the people of Texas and stated, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equity of rights and rights of property between masters and former slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and free laborer. And whereas the celebration of Juneteenth allowed the freed enslaved people and their descendants to recount the memories of that great day in 1865 when freedom was proclaimed, and also served as a release from the pressures of settling into new territories. And whereas while Juneteenth is a time for celebration, it is also a time for reflection, education, and self-improvement. We continue as a community to work towards the goal of rehabilitating the historic Ann Oliver House as the home of the Margaret Wade Lewis Center. The Margaret Wade Lewis Center at the Ann Oliver House that will preserve the Black experience in the Hudson Valley using the lens of free and enslaved lives in Ulster County, New York. The mission of the center is to engage, empower, educate, and heal the community through history and culture. The Margaret Wade Lewis Center hosts our celebration today, which includes commemoration of our local Black ancestors, a community drum procession, lunch, performances, tours, and kids' crafts. Whereas, it should say comma, and whereas today, Juneteenth, as we celebrate the National Day of African American Freedom, New Paltz recognizes and celebrates that a free Black community began to thrive and contribute to the political, social, and cultural life of this village as early as 1827, when New York State ended chattel slavery. And whereas, as citizens and residents of New Paltz, we have a responsibility to remember, to make visible, and to restore to the public record and historical memory the achievements of New Paltz's Black ancestors and elders. The Ann Oliver House is a physical testament to the Black presence in our village and town. While Freedom Day, Juneteenth, takes on a national, symbolic, and global perspective, the events of 1865 in Texas are not forgotten. So too, local contributions to the freedom story must be raised up. All of these roots spring forward from freedom's fertile soil, from which a national day of pride has grown. And whereas in 1997, Congress recognized June 19th as Juneteenth Independence Day, and whereas the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, founded and chaired by the Reverend Ronald Myers, was committed to making Juneteenth a federal holiday on par with Flag and Patriot Days. On June 17th, 2021, President Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, making Juneteenth Day a federal holiday for the first time in our nation's history, and therefore be it resolved that the Village of New Paltz recommits to commemorating Juneteenth as a day of celebration where we choose to focus on Black joy, finding the positive nourishment within self and others that is a safe and healing place. We celebrate the life and achievements of Dr. Margaret Wade Lewis, along with local Black leaders whose lives continue to define freedom for every American through their achievements, such as Essie Lewis, Ulster County's Chief Diversity Officer and daughter of Dr. Margaret Wade Lewis, Ulster County's District Attorney Emmanuel Neji, first Black Nigerian American to serve in this position, who studied at SUNY New Paltz and called New Paltz home for many years. New Paltz's first Black Ulster County legislator, Limina Grace Harmon, pastor of the United Methodist Church, and Ulster County's first poet laureate appointed by Arts Hudson, and New Paltz's longtime resident, Kate Hines. And be it further resolved that again, with this year's Juneteenth Jubilee, we will continue to commit our commitment to holding Juneteenth as our collective day of independence and freedom, in which we all take part and from which we all learn. We are all uplifted by remembrance and the celebration of Black joy as revolutionary. We celebrate the vibrant contributions Black life continually makes to our national and local culture through resilience, perseverance, and determination, commitment to freedom, justice. Be it further resolved that the village clerk is directed to send a copy of this resolution to U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, U.S. Senator Charles Schumer, U.S. Congressman Pat Ryan, Governor Kathy Hochul, State Senator Michelle Hinchy, State Assembly Member Sarah Hannah Shrestha, Ulster County Executive Jen Metzger, City of Kingston Mayor Steve Noble, Ulster County Legislative Chair Peter J. Criswell, Ulster County Legislative Vice Chair Megan Sperry, Ulster County Legislator Limina Grace Harmon, Ulster County District Attorney Emmanuel Neji, and the New Paltz Town Board.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you for working on this.
You're very welcome. It was my honor and pleasure. And I want to thank Kate Hines for assisting me in making sure it was wordsmithed properly, that she's a wordsmith. And the Lord, it's a county.
Thank you so much to Kate. That's amazing.
Kate, and yeah, she did a lot to help me make this better and do good.
Something just kind of related, just a quick anecdote, since you're mentioning our DA Neji and sending this off to him. It's out there now that, well, because all the arrestees and stuff, so it's out there in social media, not by me, but just want to know that our DA Neji did submit a a motion of dismissal in the interest of justice for all violation level charges as a result of the May 2nd actions at SUNY New Paltz. And so doing some research on this, like a dismissal in the interest of justice, it's, more so a luxury that's often not provided to more so like working class, Black, BIPOC, and otherwise marginalized peoples. Like it's a more so rare thing, and it's a huge thing in civil rights. And, like us kind of centering, race and being anti-racist and elevating Black and BIPOC individuals in our region, really it just bears more and more fruits of Black joy. So that's a nice Juneteenth story. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Alex, you want to take item number 9, Pride resolution?
Sure thing. Yeah, so happy Pride Month. So here's our annual resolution memorializing June 2024 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. So whereas in June 1969, patrons and supporters of the Stonewall Inn in New York City staged an uprising to resist the police harassment and persecution to which LGBTQ+ Americans were commonly subjected, marking the beginning of a movement to outlaw discriminatory laws and practices against LGBTQ+ Americans, and that LGBTQ+ American people continue to suffer discrimination, hostility, and exclusion at almost every level of society, including in areas of housing, education, employment, healthcare, family law, immigration, and marriage equality. And whereas LGBTQ+ Pride Month has been celebrated each year since in the month of June to honor the commitment of the LGBTQ+ pioneers who fought for civil rights in the 1969 Stonewall riots in Manhattan, a critical tipping point historically for the LGBTQ+ community in the United States. And during this month, we celebrate the progress we've made in creating a community more inclusive and accepting of LGBTQ+ people. And whereas throughout much of the history of the United States, same-sex relationships were criminalized in many states, and many LGBTQ+ people in the United States were forced to hide their LGBTQ+ identities while living in secrecy and fear. And whereas on June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in Obergefell versus Hodges that same-sex couples have a constitutional right to marry, and acknowledged that no union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. And whereas the Village of New Paltz made history in Peace Park on February 27, 2004, 20 years ago, as a location of the first same-sex marriages in the country outside of San Francisco, under former Mayor Jason West, who was subsequently arrested, whose efforts led to widespread national public attention, resulting in greater acceptance and enacted laws granting same-sex marriages. And whereas New Paltz has been hosting the annual Regional Pride March and Festival in June for the past 2 decades, and in continuation of this tradition, the Village of New Paltz has served as a leader in the growing New Paltz Pride Coalition, which has planned the March and Festival, which was held in our community last year, the last bunch of years, and this year on Saturday, June 1st. It was awesome. Whereas LGBTQ+ people in the United States face disparities in employment, healthcare, education, housing, and many other areas central to the pursuit of happiness in the United States. And whereas many states have no explicit ban on discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in the workplace, housing, or public accommodations, and many states still do not have any explicit ban on discrimination against LGBTQ+ individuals in education. And whereas LGBTQ+ people, LGBTQ+ youth especially, are at increased risk of suicide, homelessness, and being the targets of bullying and violence. Whereas the LGBTQ+ community has faced discrimination, inequality, and violence throughout the history of the United States. And whereas LGBTQ+ people in the United States, in particular transgender individuals, face a disproportionately high risk of becoming victims of violent hate crimes and higher likelihood of being homicide victims. Whereas in 2009, President Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Berg Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. And if you look at the resolution, I put all the info in there where to find it, into law to protect all people in the United States from crimes motivated by the actual perceived sexual orientation or gender identity of an individual. And whereas despite being marginalized throughout the history of the United States, LGBTQ people in the United States continue to celebrate their identities, love, and contributions to the United States in various expressions of pride. And whereas the inclusion of LGBTQ people in the United States continues to expand every day, and LGBTQ people and their allies in the United States remain determined to pursue equality, respect, and inclusion for all individuals, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. And therefore be it resolved that the Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees declares June 2024 LGBTQ Pride Month and memorializes it as such in this resolution as a symbol that we stand as allies in an intersectional LGBTQ movement that continues to struggle with ongoing issues of racial and economic justice and challenges to civil and human rights. And be it further resolved that the Village of New Paltz stands committed and united to help break down the walls of fear and prejudice, and will work to build a bridge to understanding and acceptance until all LGBTQ peoples are afforded the same rights and responsibilities as all Americans. And be it further resolved that the Village of New Paltz supports the New York State Equal Rights Amendment, or ERA, being reinstated on the 2024 general election ballot, as the ERA would enshrine important rights for the LGBTQ community, as well as bodily autonomy in general, which are under attack elsewhere in this country. And be it further resolved, the village hereby calls upon residents, employers, other public officials, all community members to work together to promote equal rights for all, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, and does further encourage all to observe the month of June with appropriate programs, ceremonies, activities that celebrate our diversity and recognize LGBTQ Americans whose many and varied contributions have enriched all of our lives. And be it further resolved that the village clerk sends us off to every elected official above us. And, so I move this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, Alice.
Thanks, Al. I move that we purchase laptops as requested by our treasurer's department. All in favor?
Second.
Aye. I move that we approve the payment number 7 to Amity Construction regarding the sewer remediation work.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The budget mod and amendments, that might have been what I was referring to earlier, Brad. I'm not 100% sure if that's.
Say that one again.
So remember earlier.
Yes, the budget allocation is what came in from Nancy today that didn't get on the agenda.
Okay. And then the RFQ for engineering services, so. We don't have the scoring sheet yet, or I don't believe any of this, or what?
Nicole, I think Nicole said.
Yeah.
You're supposed to about that on the next one.
She said, you're right, she sent a note saying that Mark was fine if we put it on the next meeting. And then I followed up and said that we should probably all look at it individually. You could probably just contact me individually and report to me what your scoring is, because I don't think we should discuss that in a public meeting. We could do it in exec, but it'd just be easier if we just do it
Okay.
Yeah.
on our own.
Yep. So
Okay?
wait, the budget mods aren't.
No, the budget mod's already done.
Yeah, that was part of the bills and claims.
Yeah, I approved that earlier.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that it was the same thing.
Okay.
So for the RFQ for engineer, we're not gonna take any action tonight. Everyone's just gonna look at the scoring sheets and report to me. And then we'll put on our findings at the June 26th meeting. And then the next item is the settlement agreement and release as recommended by Jewel and our attorneys with regards to Columbia and the CCA program. So we've circulated the details on that, so I'm moving that we go ahead and accept the settlement agreement and release.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Next item is related to our grant app, which is due on Friday. So this is just a list, so everyone had it at their fingertips in terms of what is in this grant application, where we're hoping to replace some of these water mains. No action is required because we've already done the resolution that was required to include in that grant application. And the sewer is just also in there as a placeholder, so that's just reinforcing the public hearing that we opened and closed this evening. And we're just waiting on the engineering report, and then we can detail which sections of the sewer mains will be replaced or be proposed to be replaced and how much it'll cost. Planning board liaison update.
Yeah, just quickly, Ulster County Planning Board met last week, I believe, and no update, no referrals from the village of New Paltz. I did circulate to village board and to planning board the warehouseman planner's memo. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it. This broadly talks about warehouses, what planning boards might consider when in their code how to address warehousing, warehouses. Apparently, and I think I've said this before, space is running out in Orange County. They're looking elsewhere, particularly north, to put these giant warehouses, and there's one proposed for Plattekill, Modena on the Gardner.
I don't remember seeing that.
I'll send it to you again. I think that was.
'Cause I just did a search for it and it's.
The planning board met on the 4th, and there are a couple items, including 218 Main Street, the building that's now going to become a bakery. The planning board is looking for a traffic study or to how to address traffic issues if there's an increase in traffic in and out of that particular driveway. One of the bigger discussions was for 3 Water Street, the former Blueberry. Apparently, there's no site plan for the property on record, so it has to be addressed by the owner. VC is going to request that of the owner. Their objective is to have a farm store there, which they have operating now, but also have locally sourced cannabis products. Some concerns are brought up in terms of where people can park, how do they cross from parking lot across the street safely to the Blueberry, because there's not a crosswalk across. So there were concerns expressed there. Some concerns about water runoff and looking for some bicycle racks. Then the last item of the night, and it was a very long meeting, was the review of the draft FEIS, and their
FEIS for which project?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's for
NP apartments.
Yeah, Duplex apartments. And that was reviewed, and I have tons of notes I can share with you, but essentially they're doing their best in examining each and every aspect of it.
So they're still in the midst of that
Yes,
review.
yes.
The next step was
I'm not sure. What the next step is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they've asked for a full EIS, so
Right,
they've got to review it,
they
they've
got
got
the
to find a
draft,
secret
that's
project, and they have to
except,
decide
right.
each thing, how much of an impact it is.
I mean, there were some things brought up, like maybe there could be a shuttle to campus from the site. There was concern about how the development might tax or fire, rescue, and police departments. One member suggested maybe there should be a 24-hour security guard on the premises. These are just, things brought up. Is there going to be laundry on the site? Are there going to be other businesses? Are there going to be a little cafe there? So some of these things need to be.
Is there going to be a cafe?
Not that I'm aware of. That was part of the question was, is there going to be like a convenience store there, is there a cafe, something like that? So those are all to be addressed.
So questions I totally wouldn't have even thought of.
Yeah, no, they're really asking good questions,
Yeah.
really examining. Got a great thing.
Yeah, thanks to our volunteers.
Yeah. Rock around.
That's it.
So for the ZBA update, they met last night. There was an approval for 3B Church Street. That's the retail store occupied by Scary Chappelle. They were looking for an approval, an area variance so they could serve alcoholic beverages, kind of like light fare. Just augment their retail experience. that was approved. And another area variance was approved for the Wells Fargo Bank. The owner has been talking about a tenant that would use the space as a fitness gym.
Mhm.
Our code has a maximum of 3,000 square foot per use. So a gym that was looking to go into that location needed more than 3,000 square feet. So this was just a variance to allow this slightly larger gym to go in. I think it was a relatively straightforward and easy ask. So in parallel, the proposals for the former Wells Fargo Bank are still before the planning board. So some of those other asks that are being considered by the PB, that's all separate and different from this variance ask. And then another item that was discussed by the ZB last night is the proposed hotel at 11 Water Street. They had been looking to do 26 rooms and then a 900 square foot space that was going to be like small bar, restaurant, kind of like event area. So I guess they're jettisoning that entire concept and just adding another room or two. So I believe there's now 28 rooms instead of 26. So then that tweaks their parking calculation, and they just needed slightly more parking, so they had to get a variance. It seemed like the planning board was largely comfortable with that change, and the ZBA was, but you know, that has not been approved yet, but that was part of what was being discussed by the ZBA last night. And then another and final item that was being discussed last night is, so in the NBR, you have a maximum side yard of 15 feet. So what's interesting about like the intentions behind the zoning for the NBR is you're trying to create like a neighborhood where when you walk from building to building, there shouldn't really be disruptions in terms of, you know, from one building to another. It should feel less like a suburban like strip mall experience and more like an experience where physiologically you're going to respond like more comfortably and feel safer because you're closer to buildings and not just like floating around by yourself, vulnerable to vehicles. But because we also require fire trucks to service the building and then get behind the building, and then also parking, and then sometimes you might want parking on the sides of the building, that 15 feet is tricky with certain developments. So you know, that was another topic of discussion that the ZBA had to chew on, and from what I understand, it was a fairly healthy and good conversation. So that's just, you know, giving everyone a 20,000 foot survey of what the ZBA was up to last night.
Thank you.
One thing that I spoke to our interim town supervisor, Amanda Gatto, and college president, Dr. Wheeler, this morning was about community and individuals who are employed by the university. And, you know, we definitely know that some individuals employed by the university do things like serve on planning boards or ZBA or, you know, involved in other community activities. And we were just thinking it could be a really interesting exercise to kind of highlight and celebrate anyone who is employed by the university, who then also, you know, is potentially like a volunteer firefighter, or just like what else are they doing that's community oriented in addition. And like, you know, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of like Matt Friday does Unison and, you know, serves as a professor. You know, Dan Lipson,
Bike ped.
Dan Lipson is bike ped and poli sci, and Tom Olson is HBC for a very long time, and, you know, a retired English professor. So there's definitely, you know, and that I think is really important to the university, so they can report back to SUNY Central, because that's really what they want to be showing, is that their staff, not just the professors, but anyone employed by the university is you know, very much involved in the community as well. So it's just kind of a cool concept, and I wonder, how we could try to get that comprehensive list of all the folks. So I've just kind of like thrown it out there.
That just reminds me
A
of,
survey.
yeah, a survey, but that also reminds me of us wanting to find a way to thank all of our
Thank our volunteer members. Yep,
volunteers and come up with our final.
totally.
It would also be cool, because like this Saturday, I was, awarded as a student New Paltz 40 under 40.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was exciting. But like also just thinking of different ways, like student New Paltz alumnus give back to the community. And it was cool seeing, some of my old Nyberg friends, like 2 gals like from college I haven't seen in 20 years, we're back in town, and they're like, we follow everything that you do. I'm like, you can call me anytime, but like, just, and they're like, yeah, we should come back more often and all of that, but like really like struck by like some of us, a lot of us that like came here for school, then stuck around and found like different ways to like really give back to the community. So I'd be interested in knowing like current people employed by the school, by the college, the university, and alumnus and all of that, like.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be hard to do the survey. It's just
Yeah.
more about like who wants to shepherd that project.
That also makes me think about how
Yeah.
we've heard that a lot of people who work for the university can't afford
Yeah.
to live in New Paltz anymore. Back to affordability.
Okay, well, I was just wanted to plant that seed, and if
Yeah.
anyone wanted to
I
run with that.
I do know in the fire company that at present there's not a student or a faculty member within the company, so that's my contribution.
And then something that I wanted to add to this agenda, because June Wheeler asked about making changes to the plan for the Prospect Street sidewalk. I just wanted to take the temperature of our board to see if we're interested in doing anything different.
I need to know what that would look like though, to be able to say how I feel on it, I need to see. I feel like I'm signing so many different POs right now, I need to know kind of like what that would actually look like,
So you wanna pull, I mean, we have contractors coming to,
I don't wanna pause anything,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's like, I don't wanna pause anything. Really, but I don't know, it's so hard being asked to suddenly like weigh in on things that have been in progress for years, I don't know,
Yeah.
that's my temperature, stressed out.
What I wanted to know is how we could possibly, some of the comments that were made, if we could, maybe, is it reasonable to bake in a way to involve the community more or differently sooner, so that we could maybe try to do things ahead of time so that it doesn't become like too late, sorry, you can't. Because it's
I don't think, to me, that's not the issue. I'm not interested in investing in bluestone sidewalks, flat out. I don't think they serve pedestrians. I think they're entirely too expensive. It's not like this hasn't been considered by staff, engineers, myself, local contractors, showing these plans to the likes of Floyd Niffen. He was very supportive of the design that we came up with.
One more question, they're talking about the buckling and how it doesn't last. Isn't what we're doing different than some of that?
Yeah, and that's what I've really struggled with about this letter that was put in the newspaper, as well as the comments that were made tonight. Like the asphalt that exists on sidewalks in this community now was done as some sort of like weird temporary, poorly thought out, let's put blacktop over top of existing concrete most likely, or existing roof situations. Like, yeah, that will never work. You can ask anyone who does a blacktopping driveways, if you just go over existing cracks, the cracks will just come right back up.
Right, so this is different and will
This
last
is a
longer.
completely different application, and then even if there are cracks or things do shift, the cost to repair and replace is pennies on the dollar versus you know, what we're already seeing with the Bluestone in Stone Ridge that was done recently. I don't know, everywhere I go, I take pictures of Bluestone. Bluestone does not last at all, like it was being described this evening. It crumbles, it deteriorates, it creates trip hazards, like, you know, for the people who officially dislike Bluestone Club, sign me up.
Yeah, I
Amen.
mean, I can see both sides to it to some extent. Like, I do understand wanting to keep the community character, and I grew up in a neighborhood of Bluestone, and I see that it's beautiful and I see the positives. I really do. I do wonder about how mining it, you know, is maybe not so green as everybody thinks. But for me, the fiduciary responsibility and the ADA compliance take precedent over the other things, much as I love Bluestone, because I really do. As far as aesthetics, and I do love the idea of us, you know, trying to keep as much as we can historical about the, you know, the village. I don't see it being feasible in, like you were saying, in the way that they think it is. So I can understand where they're coming from. I don't think they're fully informed. And I think that this is another one of those where we have to really look at the realities of the situation, not just from one perspective, and see that what we have to do here as stewards of the village is to do what's best for the most people, that and to think about those who have the least first. So to think about those who are differently abled, to think about those who are challenged financially, and really try to put them first. And much as I love aesthetics, but also I do think it's important to recognize that the way we're gonna do it is not what has been before. And it's gonna be aesthetically better, and it's gonna last better, and you know, there's no one perfect solution, but we've gotta think about those who.
And we have to do something. We
Yeah,
have to
it
do
has to
something,
happen.
like
We can't
this,
slow
the
down.
fact that we
Yeah.
continue to neglect sidewalks, and the fact that we were legally responsible
Yeah.
for replacing the Bluestone sidewalk
Yeah.
on historic Huguenot Street before December 31st of 2008.
Yeah, and one more thing, you know, I heard from at least one community member whose husband was a veteran in a wheelchair, who did not feel safe on the sidewalks on Church Street and needed to be in the street. And that affected his quality of life, and I'm so not okay with that. And I want to make sure that everyone's quality of life is uplifted. And I understand aesthetics are important, but I think that people's ability to get around safely comes first.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, we can't just hit pause on things. I guess my temperature is the same as like the last 50 times we talked about it. I just feel for everybody, per usual.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I get where everybody's coming from. I really do. But we have to make tough decisions. That's why we were.
Yeah, you said the
elected.
F word, fiduciary responsibilities, like.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
All right, anything else?
That's it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right. So, I did notice.
Let's stop that.
I promise I'm not sick. I know I've been coughing. I'm not sick anymore, I promise.
We just can't verify your sickness.
As long as it's not COVID.
It was RSV.
Oh, right.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm on week